I spent about 13 years, felt like 13 years, 13 terms at SMBI back when I was younger, and then we actually went back as a family a year ago. One term at EBI, Elnora Bible Institute, and I've visited some others, but not spent a lot of time in other ones. Probably Faith Bros would be the next one that I know the most about. I'm going to categorize Bible schools in a couple different groups. The first one I'm going to call is low intensity. These are mostly 3-week schools, mostly young people. I would say mostly people that are 18, 19, 20. And the 3 that I'm going to talk about is Calvary Bible School, CBS, it's known as CBS, Heritage Bible School, or Maranatha Bible School. Have anybody ever been to either one of those 3? Some of you have taught there, so there's a few here. I've not been to any one of those. My brother did one time. Brandon, I think, was at Maranatha at one point. So if you want to know more about those schools, there's other people that know more than I do. I will talk about them a little bit. I'm going to call them low intensity. Academically, they're not as rigorous as some of the others. They are mostly short term, other than I think Maranatha has a 6-week term, and maybe one of the others has a 6-week term. Most of them are 3-week terms. So you come in, you are there for 3 weeks, and you move on. Some of the benefits of them is if you can't get off work for a long period of time, those can be good options. If you have a student that is just, maybe one of your children is just not sure they can go for 6 weeks, long ways away from home, some of those could be good options. Some of the low side the downsides are, is it long enough to really study well? It's 3 weeks in, you're out. That's something to think about. I think longer study sometimes is helpful. Some of those schools and some of those terms in some of those schools tend to bring in a party crowd a little more. And if your children are not growing up in a Mennonite world, they may struggle to fit in some of those schools. Some terms, other terms they'll fit in fine, but you don't know that ahead of time. The next one is I'm going to call mid to high intensity, and I'm going to say Elnora Bible Institute is mostly 6-week terms. They do have a 15-week term semester in the fall. SMBI has five terms, mostly 6-week terms, and then Faith Builders is the next one. And I've kind of put those in order. I think EBI is probably the least intensive of the 3. SMBI is the middle one, and Faith Builders is the more intensive one. Now, when I say intensive, I'm saying probably harder classwork. More is going to be required of you to do it on your own. You're not going to be watched over to make sure you're studying. It's like a college atmosphere. You are given your requirements, and it's your job to get the work done. Nobody's checking in on you to see, hey, did you study for 2 hours this afternoon, or did you get your work in? It's up to you. And your teacher might check in with you, but the deans aren't going to be checking with you. The RAs or administration is not really going to be checking in with you unless there's a problem. If they see a problem, they'll come talk to you. But nobody's really watching over you in those schools there. The classwork is harder. I'm not sure I'm going to say it's terribly hard. I went to SMBI as a 19-year-old. The longest paper I had ever written, I struggled in school. I had ADD, I struggled. I think the longest paper I ever wrote up to that time was about 400 words. And I get there and I had a 2,000 word paper on something in Revelations. And if I didn't hand the paper in, it was 35% of the grade. I failed the class. Fortunately, they worked with me and I was able to reorganize some things. I made it through. And if I can make it, ask my mom, I was homeschooled, ask my mom, if I can make it, pretty much anybody can make it. So it is possible. Don't get too scared about that. Is it work? Yes, it's work. But it's not undoable. One thing to think about is going as a family. You can take a 6-week sabbatical from your work, from your church plant, and go to one of these schools as a family. Some of you can probably fill in. I know SMBI will take families, Faith Brothers takes families, EBI takes families. Does Heritage, Randy, does Heritage take families?
Probably would, but
nobody ever come. Calvary Bible School. Anybody know if families can go there? Not very likely. Maranatha. Anybody know Maranatha? I don't know that any of those 3 really get families in, but you could check. As far as families go, Faith Brothers has a winter term. It's 5 weeks long, but you do not have to go for the full 5 weeks. That's something you can consider. EBI puts week-long seminars in the fall that you can go in for a week at a time. SMBI does not have a short time but they do welcome families in, and probably they get more families than any of those schools. And they're very welcome to families. It was a highlight of last year we were there. So it's something I would highly encourage. So if you're nervous about sending your children to Bible school, go with them. You get the best of both worlds. After that is mission training schools. These do have Bible classes, but they are very intensive, very directed towards training you for ministry in one way or another. I'm going to highlight 3. There are others. The first 2 are